3 months after the Battle of Nexus Prime, the galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. The debate chambers that had once echoed with arguments about procedure and protocol now buzzed with discussions about survival and cooperation. Chancellor Tae-hyun Kang walked through the rebuilt Nexus Prime station with Ambassador Ji-ho Nam at his side. Workers from a dozen species moved around them, repairing the damage from the Virax bombardment. But they weren't just repairing. They were rebuilding better, stronger, using human technology and methods. "It's strange being back here," Tae-hyun said quietly. "The last time Earth had representatives on this station, we were begging for help that never came." Ji-ho nodded. "Now we're the ones they're begging to help them." "The difference is we actually said yes." They entered the main conference chamber where representatives from every major species in the galaxy had gathered. This wasn't a council session. Those were done. This was something new. Something humanity had proposed and the galaxy had eagerly accepted. The formation of the Galactic Alliance. Councillor Thexus stood to greet them, his ancient face showing genuine respect now. "Chancellor Kang, Ambassador Nam, welcome. We've been waiting to begin." Tae-hyun took his seat at the table, not at the head but as an equal among equals. That was the entire point of the alliance. No more elder species looking down on younger ones. No more dismissing concerns because they came from the wrong species. Every member had an equal vote and equal voice. "The Alliance Charter is ready for final approval," Ji-ho said, projecting the document for everyone to see. "Every species has reviewed it." "Any final objections?" The Korthan representative raised one of his forearms. "Just one question, Ambassador. The Charter includes mandatory mutual defense. If any Alliance member is attacked, all members must respond, but humanity has by far the strongest military. Won't you be doing most of the defending?" Ji-ho smiled. "That's the idea, yes, for now. But the Charter also includes technology sharing provisions. Over time, every Alliance species will have access to human defensive technology. We'll help you build your own fleets, train your own forces. The goal isn't Earth dominance. It's collective security where everyone can actually defend themselves." "And the Vrax?" another representative asked. "What happens to them?" That was the difficult question. The Vrax Empire had been broken by the battle, but millions of Virax still lived on their homeworlds. Some species wanted revenge. Others wanted the entire species exterminated for their crimes. Fleet Admiral Soman Han spoke up from her position near the back of the room. "The Vrax will be disarmed and their military government dissolved. But their civilian population will be given a chance to join the galactic community peacefully, will occupy their key worlds and oversee their transition to a democratic government." "That's too merciful," a Pelion representative objected. "They murdered billions across multiple species. They tried to destroy this very station." "Yes, they did," Somin agreed. "And humanity has better reason than anyone to want revenge. They killed nearly 4 million humans 25 years ago. But we didn't build this fleet to become the monsters we fought against. We built it to protect, and that includes protecting the possibility of redemption." The chamber fell silent. Finally, Councillor Thexus spoke. "The Admiral is right. If we exterminate the Vrax, we become no better than they were. We'll follow humanity's recommendation on this matter." Ji-ho called for the vote. "All in favor of the Galactic Alliance Charter as written?" Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the room rose in approval. Not a single objection. The charter passed unanimously. The Galactic Council was officially dissolved. In its place, the Galactic Alliance was born. After the meeting, Ambassador Ji-ho found himself in a private room with Councillor Thexus. The ancient Pelion looked tired, his 400-year-old body showing the weight of recent events. "I need to say something to you, Ambassador," Thexus began. "Something I should have said 25 years ago. You already apologized publicly. That was politics. This is personal." Thexus met his eyes. "I voted against helping your people when they were dying. I watched the footage of your dead children and still chose to do nothing. I told myself it was the prudent choice, that getting involved would be too costly. But the truth is I was afraid that if the Council protected weak species, we'd be obligated to protect them forever." Ji-ho listened without interrupting. "I was wrong," Thexus continued, "and my cowardice cost millions of human lives. I've lived for 400 years and made many mistakes, but that one haunts me. Your people had every right to let us die when the Vrax attacked. Instead, you saved us." "We didn't do it for you personally," Ji-ho said honestly. We did it because letting the Vraks win would have meant facing them alone later. We acted in our own self-interest, perhaps. But you also showed mercy when you didn't have to. You're offering the Vraks redemption when no one would have blamed you for destroying them completely. That takes wisdom beyond your years. Jiho stood and walked to the window looking out at the stars. We learned something during those 25 years of isolation, counselor. We learned that strength without compassion is just tyranny. But we also learned that compassion without strength is just vulnerability. The galaxy needs both. And that's why the Alliance will succeed where the Council failed, Thexus said. You understand the balance. Elsewhere on the station, Fleet Admiral Somin met with Engineer Hana Song to discuss the future of human ship production. We have requests from 47 species wanting to buy human technology, Hana reported. Drive systems, shield generators, weapons platforms. Everyone wants what we built. We're not selling weapons technology, Somin said firmly. Defensive systems only. Shields, sensors, early warning systems. We'll help them protect themselves, but we're not arming the galaxy for the next war. What about the shipyards? Several species want us to help them build new fleets. That we can do. Send teams to teach them. Share the construction techniques. But make sure they understand these ships are for defense, not conquest. Hana smiled. You're really committed to this peace thing, aren't you? I've spent 30 years preparing for war, Somin said. I'd like to spend the next 30 preventing them. On Earth, Intelligence Director Yuna Shin monitored the implementation of the Alliance across the galaxy. Her network of observers reported back on how different species were adapting to the new system. Most were embracing it. The younger species especially loved having an equal voice. The elder species were adjusting more slowly, but even they recognized that the old ways had failed. But not everyone was happy. Some species saw the Alliance as human imperialism dressed up in diplomatic language. They believed Earth was using its military superiority to control the galaxy through fear. Yuna wasn't naive. She knew those concerns had some validity. Humanity did have overwhelming military power. They could enforce their will on the galaxy if they chose to. That's why it was so important that they didn't. She sent a memo to Chancellor Tae-hyun. We need to be very careful in the coming years. Power corrupts, and we have more power than any species has ever held. The moment we start using it for our own benefit rather than collective security, we become the next threat the galaxy needs to defend against. Tae-hyun read her message and nodded to himself. Yuna was right. Humanity had to be constantly vigilant about not becoming the villains in their own story. 6 months after the Alliance formation, Captain Doyen Choi led a joint human Pelion patrol fleet through the former Vraks territory. His ship, the ESS Vigilant, flew alongside 3 Pelion cruisers and 2 Korthan frigates. It was the first joint Alliance military operation, and Doyen was determined to make it work. Captain, we're detecting a distress call from the planet below, his communications officer reported. Vraks civilians. They're saying rebel military forces are attacking their settlement. Doyen looked at the Pelion commander on his screen. Commander Lexan, what do you think? The Pelion officer considered. Could be legitimate. Could be a trap. The Vraks military remnants have been causing problems. Only one way to find out. Shall we respond together? Lexan smiled. Together. That's what the Alliance means, doesn't it? The joint fleet descended to the planet and found that the distress call was genuine. A group of former Vraks soldiers had been attacking civilian settlements trying to restart their war. The Alliance forces stopped them without casualties on either side. Afterward, a Vraks civilian approached Captain Doyen hesitantly. You're human, yes? My species killed millions of your people. Yes, you did, but you saved us anyway. Why? Doyen thought about his answer carefully. Because my admiral says we protect the possibility of redemption. Because we'd rather build a galaxy where former enemies become friends than one where the killing never stops. The Vraks civilian bowed deeply. Thank you. Not just for today, but for giving us a chance at tomorrow. Back on Nexus Prime, Chancellor Tae-hyun and Fleet Admiral Somin stood on an observation deck, watching the ships of the Grand Fleet maintain their patrol patterns around the station. We did it, Tae-hyun said quietly. We came back and changed everything. We came back with 1,000 warships, Somin agreed. But that's not what changed the galaxy. It's what we chose to do with them that mattered. The space around Nexus Prime Station lit up like a newborn star as the human fleet opened fire. From every corner of the galaxy, Species watched the live tactical feeds with their hearts in their throats. History was being made in fire and metal. Vrax's High Commander Kreloth watched from his flagship as the human ship split into 3 formations. His insectoid brain processed the movement patterns with confusion. The humans were dividing their forces, making themselves weaker. This would be easier than expected. All ships forward advance. Crush them, Kreloth ordered in the clicking language of his species. The Vrax fleet surged forward, 2,000 warships moving in their traditional swarm pattern. It was a formation that had conquered 3 species in the last 20 years. Energy weapons began charging for the first volley. On the ESS Defiant bridge, Captain Doyen watched the Vrax approach with calm eyes. "Admiral, they're using standard tactics. Should we adjust our formation?" Admiral Soman shook her head. "No need. They still think they're fighting the old Earth. Let them learn the hard way." The 3 human formations suddenly activated their quantum fold drives. In the blink of an eye, the ships teleported short distances, appearing at completely different vectors around the Vrax fleet. The maneuver was so fast that the Virax sensors didn't register it until after it happened. Now the humans had the Vrax surrounded from 3 sides. "All ships, fire at will," Soman commanded. The kinetic accelerators fired first. Telephone pole-sized projectiles accelerated to near light speed, crossed the distance to the Vrax fleet in seconds. Each impact released energy equivalent to multiple nuclear weapons. Vrax ships didn't just explode. They vaporized, turned into expanding clouds of superheated gas and debris. In the first 10 seconds, 50 Virax ships ceased to exist. The plasma cannons fired next. Beams of magnetically contained star matter hot enough to melt through any known armor. Where the beams touched Vrax ships, metal boiled away like water. Hulls crumpled. Internal atmospheres ignited. Another 100 Virax ships died. Then the missiles arrived. Each human warship carried hundreds of missiles, and each missile carried a warhead that made old nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. They tracked their targets with impossible precision, dodging Vrax point defense fire with micro-adjustments. The explosions lit up space like a chain of dying suns. Commander Kreloth stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In less than 1 minute, he had lost over 200 ships. The humans hadn't lost a single vessel. Their shields were absorbing Vrax weapons fire with barely a flicker. "This is wrong," he hissed. "This is impossible. They're just humans." His weapons officer spoke urgently. "Commander, their shields are at least 4 times stronger than our own. And their weapons have 3 times our range and 10 times our power. We cannot win this engagement. We have superior numbers. Numbers don't matter when each of their ships can destroy 10 of ours." Kreloth refused to accept it. The Vrax Empire had never retreated, never shown weakness. "All ships concentrate fire on their flagship. Kill their admiral and they will break." 300 Vrax ships turned their weapons on the ESS Defiant. Energy beams and kinetic rounds converged on the human flagship from every angle. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon. The Defiant's shields flared bright blue, absorbing the impacts. Power readings spiked but held steady. Inside the ship, the crew felt slight vibrations but nothing more. "Shield strength at 82%, the defensive officer reported calmly. "No damage to hull or systems," Admiral Soman smiled. "Return fire. Show them what a real flagship can do." The Defiant unleashed all 3 of its relativistic kill vehicle launchers simultaneously. 3 projectiles, each moving at 97% light speed, crossed space faster than the Vrax could react. 3 Vrax battleships simply stopped existing, deleted from reality by the sheer kinetic energy of the impacts. "Keep firing. Don't let up for a second." The battle continued with brutal efficiency. The human fleet moved like sharks through water, their quantum fold drives letting them appear, strike, and vanish before the Vrax could respond effectively. Captain Yoonji Kim led her fighter wings in devastating attacks on Vrax capital ships, her pilots hitting engines and weapons with surgical precision. Commander Minho Park, captain of the destroyer ESS Thunder, brought his ship in close to a Vrax carrier. All weapons concentrated fire on their launch bay. Let's see how they like having their fighters trapped inside. The Thunder's plasma cannons carved through the carrier's hull directly into the fighter bay. Secondary explosions rippled through the ship as fuel and ammunition detonated in chain reactions. The carrier broke in half, spilling thousands of Vrax into the vacuum. 1 hour into the battle, the tactical situation was clear. 500 Vrax ships were destroyed. The humans had 17 ships with damaged shields, but 0 ships destroyed. 0 human casualties. On Nexus Prime Station, Council observers watched in stunned silence. The Corthan military analyst kept shaking his head, muttering to himself, "This isn't a battle. It's an execution. The Vrax never had a chance." Councillor Thexus watched the one-sided slaughter and felt shame wash over him. This was what humanity could have done 25 years ago if the Council had helped them develop. Instead, the Council had restricted human growth, limited their military and kept them weak. And when humanity needed protection, the Council had refused. Now the Council was seeing what happened when you forced a desperate species to protect itself. Humanity had broken every rule, ignored every restriction, and built something terrifying. They had built a fleet that could crush any opponent. Commander Kreloth watched his fleet dissolve around him and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The Vrax Empire had conquered through strength and numbers. But here those advantages meant nothing. The humans were stronger. The humans were faster. The humans were better. His species had murdered millions of humans and expected no consequences. They had been wrong. "All ships new target," Kreloth ordered desperately. "Ignore the human fleet. Fire everything at Nexus Prime Station. If we cannot win, we will at least destroy the Council headquarters." 600 remaining Vrax warships turned as one and opened fire on the massive station. Energy beams and kinetic rounds streaked toward Nexus Prime, enough firepower to reduce the station to rubble in minutes. On the station, evacuation alarms began blaring. Personnel rushed toward escape pods. The Council representatives prepared to flee. This was the end. Then the human fleet moved. 40 human dreadnoughts positioned themselves between the Vrax barrage and Nexus Prime. Their shields activated at maximum power and began linking together, creating a massive energy barrier that covered the entire station. The Vrax weapons hit the human shield like waves against a cliff. Energy readings spiked to critical levels. Inside the ESS Defiant, Admiral Soman watched the shield strength indicators drop. 70%. 60%. 50% hull breaches on the ESS Guardian, a voice reported. Shield failure on the ESS Protector. 40%. 30%. The Vrax bombardment was depleting their shields faster than expected. Another minute and some of those dreadnoughts would be destroyed. Human lives would be lost protecting the Council that had abandoned them. Soman's jaw tightened. "All ships not on shield duty, destroy the Vrax fleet." To it now. 20% shield strength. The Vrax weapons sputtered and died. They had fired everything they had. The bombardment stopped. The human shields held. Barely, but they held. Not a single shot had touched Nexus Prime. Behind the shield, the remaining 960 human warships opened fire with everything they possessed. It was not warfare. It was annihilation. Kinetic accelerators, plasma cannons, missiles, and fighter strikes all converged on the Vrax fleet at once. The remaining 600 Vrax ships were destroyed in less than 10 minutes. Not destroyed cleanly in combat. Vaporized, obliterated. Reduced to atoms scattered across space. Commander Kreloth's flagship was the last to die. As plasma fire tore through his ship, his final thought was of regret. His species had poked a sleeping giant. They had hurt humanity and believed there would be no consequences. They were wrong. And now the Vrax Empire would pay the price. When the light faded and the tactical displays cleared, only debris remained. Nearly 2,000 Vrax warships gone. The human Grand Fleet maintained perfect formation, having lost 0 ships. Across the galaxy, every species watched in absolute silence. They had just witnessed the birth of a new dominant power. Humanity had returned from isolation with overwhelming force and used it with devastating precision. On Nexus Prime, Councillor Thexus stared at the tactical display with tears in his ancient eyes. The humans had saved them. After everything the Council had done, after all the betrayal and dismissal, humanity had protected them anyway. Ambassador Jiho's transmission came through, his voice calm and measured. "Nexus Prime Station, this is Ambassador Jiho Nam. The threat has been eliminated. You are safe now. Consider this humanity's introduction to the new galactic order. We protect those who deserve protection, not those who merely demand it." Admiral Salmon stood on her bridge looking out at her fleet. They had done it. They had shown the galaxy what humanity had become. No one would ever dismiss Earth again. The sensor operator on Nexus Prime Station was drinking his morning coffee when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. His cup fell from his hand, shattering on the floor as he stared at his screens in disbelief. "Sir, we have multiple contacts emerging from quantum-fold space at the edge of the system." Station Commander Valix, a Korthan with blue skin and 4 arms, rushed to the command center. "How many ships?" "Counting now, sir. 100. 300. 500? The operator's voice rose in panic. "Sir, I'm reading 1,000 ships. That's impossible. No species has a fleet that large." "Sensors confirm, sir. 1,000 warships, all of them massive. Energy signatures are off the scale. I've never seen readings like this." Felix felt his blood run cold. "Identify them." "What species?" The operator worked frantically at his console. Then he went very still. "Sir, the ships are broadcasting Earth identification codes." "Earth?" Felix couldn't believe it. "The humans? The ones who left 25 years ago?" "Yes, sir. And they're arranging themselves in battle formation." Across the station, emergency protocols activated. Council representatives rushed to the main chamber. Species ambassadors contacted their homeworlds. Military observers watched the tactical displays with growing horror. The human fleet was unlike anything in Council records. Each ship was larger than the biggest Council dreadnoughts. Their hulls were covered in armor plating that looked like it could shrug off direct hits. Weapon ports lined their sides, hundreds of them. And the energy readings suggested power generation capacity that shouldn't be possible. Inside the ESS Defiant, Fleet Admiral Samin Han watched Nexus Prime grow larger on the view screen. The massive station hung in space, looking exactly as it had 25 years ago. But everything else had changed. "Admiral, we're receiving hails from the station," Captain Doyen reported. "They're demanding to know our intentions. Ignore them for now. Open a channel to Ambassador Jiho." The face of Earth's new ambassador appeared on screen. Jiho Nam was young, barely 40 years old, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. He had been chosen specifically for this moment. His job was not to beg or negotiate. His job was to make demands. "Ambassador, are you ready?" Someone asked. "I've been ready for 25 years, Admiral. Let's remind them what happens when you abandon humanity." Jiho's transmission was broadcast on every frequency, to every Council species, to every ship in the system. His voice was calm but carried the weight of millions of dead humans behind it. "Members of the Galactic Council, this is Ambassador Jiho Nam of Earth. 25 years ago, humanity left your council because you denied us protection when we needed it most. You watched as millions of humans died and called it a peripheral conflict. You dismissed our pain and mocked our weakness. On Nexus Prime, species representatives watched in stunned silence as the human ambassador continued. We return today not to rejoin your council, but to deliver a message. Humanity takes care of its own. We will never again depend on others for our survival. We will never again be dismissed as primitives who don't deserve protection." Councillor Thexus, the ancient Pelion who had voted against helping humanity all those years ago, stared at the tactical display showing 1,000 human warships. His 400-year-old mind struggled to process what he was seeing. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They were barely space-capable when they left." "How did they build this?" The Korthan military observer had an answer. "Sir, I'm analyzing their ships. The technology is revolutionary. Quantum-fold drives, plasma shielding, weapon systems I don't even recognize. They've leaped ahead 200 years in development." "In 25 years? How?" "By ignoring every restriction we placed on them, sir. By breaking every rule we made them follow. We limited their growth because we feared what they might become. And now we see what happens when you remove those limits from a desperate, angry species." Admiral Soman decided it was time for a demonstration. "Target the asteroid designated Alpha 7. One shot, kinetic accelerator at 97% power. Target locked, Admiral. Fire!" The ESS Defiant's main gun spat out a projectile the size of a telephone pole. It accelerated instantly to 97% the speed of light, crossing 20 million kilometers in seconds. The asteroid, 3 kilometers wide and made of solid rock, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was a cloud of superheated gas expanding into space. The shock wave from the impact was detected across the entire system. Every sensor array recorded the impossible amount of energy released by a single shot from a single human ship. On Nexus Prime, the council chamber fell into absolute silence. Every species representative understood what they had just witnessed. Any one of those human ships could destroy entire fleets. Ambassador Jiho's voice cut through the silence. That was one shot from one ship. We have 1,000 ships. I believe this adequately demonstrates that humanity is no longer the weak species you remember. Before anyone could respond, new alarms sounded. The Korthan military observer looked at his screens and felt his heart sink. Sir, we have incoming ships, 2,000 vessels bearing the signatures of the Vrax Empire. Counselor Thexus stood up in horror. The Vrax here? They weren't supposed to attack for months. They're broadcasting now, sir. The Vrax High Commander's voice filled the council chamber. The insectoid leader's words were harsh and clicking. Galactic Council, you have failed to stop our expansion. You have shown weakness. Today you will surrender to the Vrax Empire or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. The council erupted in panic. Species representatives shouted over each other. Some called for immediate evacuation. Others demanded their military forces defend the station. Several species representatives simply fled the chamber. Counselor Thexus slumped in his seat looking at the tactical display. 2,000 Vrax warships against the few hundred council defense ships scattered around the system. It was hopeless. They would be slaughtered. Then he noticed something. The human fleet hadn't moved. 1,000 warships holding position, watching the chaos unfold. Ambassador Jiho's transmission came through again. This time directly to the council chamber. Counselor Thexus, I notice you have a problem. The Vrax Empire seems intent on destroying Nexus Prime and ending the Galactic Council. Thexus found his voice. Ambassador, if you have come seeking revenge, you have chosen your moment perfectly. You can watch as the species who abandoned you are destroyed. Revenge. Jiho repeated the word thoughtfully. I admit there's temptation in that. But humanity didn't spend 25 years building this fleet just to watch others die. We built it to ensure no one ever suffers what we suffered. What are you saying? I'm saying humanity will defend Nexus Prime and Council space from the Vrax assault. We will show you what real strength looks like, what real protection means. But we want something in return. Name it. Anything. Jiho's eyes were hard. First, a formal apology from every Council species for your inaction during the Vrax attacks on human colonies. Second, recognition of humanity as an independent sovereign power, equal to any species in this galaxy. Third, an agreement that Earth will never be dismissed, ignored, or treated as inferior again. Thexus looked around the chamber at the other representatives. Some looked angry at the demands. Most looked desperate. The Vrax fleet was approaching fast. I agree to your terms, Thexus said. On behalf of the Pelian people, I apologize for our failure to help humanity. I recognize Earth as our equal. One by one, other species representatives added their voices. Some did so reluctantly, others with genuine remorse. But all of them agreed. They had no choice. Ambassador Jiho nodded. Very well. The apology is accepted. Now watch carefully. This is what it looks like when someone actually protects their allies. He closed the transmission and contacted Admiral Soman. It's done. The Council has agreed to our terms. Soman smiled coldly. Then let's give them their money's worth. Show them what 25 years of human anger built. She turned to her crew and her voice rang across the bridge. All ships, battle stations. Target the Vrax fleet. Weapons free. Show them what it means to threaten humanity. Across the Grand Fleet, 1,000 warships powered up their weapons. Kinetic accelerators charged. Plasma cannons heated to firing temperature. Missile tubes loaded their deadly cargo. Fighter bays opened, releasing thousands of small craft. The Vrax fleet continued its approach, confident in their numerical superiority. They had 2,000 ships against what they thought were some jumped-up humans with delusions of power. They were about to learn the truth. They were about to face what humanity becomes when you murder their children and then laugh about it. They were about to understand why you should never ever dismiss the species called humans. Admiral Soman gave the order that would echo across the galaxy. All ships engage. Leave nothing standing. 25 years had passed since Earth closed its borders. The galaxy had changed in that time, but no one knew what had happened inside human space. Every attempt to contact Earth received the same automated response. This territory is restricted. Leave immediately or be destroyed. Several species tried to send scout ships into human territory. None returned. After the first dozen ships vanished without a trace, the Council declared human space off limits. Most species forgot about humanity, treating them as a failed experiment that had retreated into isolation. But humanity had not been idle. Fleet Admiral Soman Han walked through the Mars orbital shipyard, her boots ringing on the metal floor. She had been a young captain when Earth withdrew from the Council. Now she commanded all of humanity's military forces, and what she commanded was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Around her, thousands of workers moved with purpose. Robotic arms assembled hull sections the size of city blocks. Welding torches lit up the darkness like stars. And everywhere ships were taking shape. Not the small frigates humanity once built under Council restrictions. These were warships designed to dominate. Engineer Hana Song met her at the observation deck. "Admiral, the final ship is entering the construction bay now. We'll have 1,000 warships operational within 3 months." Soman nodded slowly. 1,000. I remember when Earth's entire fleet was 53 ships. "Those days are gone," Hana said. "These new vessels are nothing like the old fleet. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy 100 Council ships." They watched as the massive frame of a new dreadnought moved into position. The ship was 3 kilometers long, covered in armor plating that could withstand direct nuclear strikes. Its weapons included kinetic accelerators that fired projectiles at nearly light speed, plasma cannons hot enough to melt asteroids, and missile batteries carrying warheads that made old nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. "The quantum fold drives are working beyond expectations," Hana continued. "Our ships can travel twice as fast as any Council vessel. They can also make micro-jumps during combat, essentially teleporting short distances. What about the shields? Plasma barriers that can link between ships. In theory, our entire fleet could combine shields into one massive defensive wall." Soman allowed herself a small smile. "The Council laughed when we left. They called us weak and emotional. I wonder what they would think if they could see this. They'll find out soon enough, Chancellor." Taehyun Kang was thinking the same thing in his office on Earth. The leader of the United Earth government, sat behind his desk, reviewing reports from every human world, Mars, Luna, Europa, Titan, and dozens of colony worlds beyond the solar system. All of them had contributed to humanity's transformation. His assistant entered the room. "Sir, Director Yuna has arrived. Send her in." Intelligence Director Yuna Shin had aged well in 25 years. She still moved with the grace of her younger days, but her eyes held the weight of secrets. She commanded Earth's network of spies and scouts, the shadows that watched the galaxy while humanity prepared. "The reconnaissance mission has returned," Yuna said without preamble. "Captain Doyen's report confirms our suspicions." Taehyun leaned forward. "The Vraks? They're planning another attack on human space. A massive fleet, more than 2,000 ships. They believe we're still weak and defenseless. They plan to exterminate every human in the galaxy." The Chancellor's jaw tightened. The Vraks had murdered millions of humans 25 years ago, and now they wanted to finish the job. "When?" 6 months. They're gathering forces in the Cortex sector. "And the Council?" Yuna pulled up a holographic display showing the galactic map. Red zones spread across Council space like a disease. "The Vraks have conquered 3 more species since we left. The Council is fractured, arguing about how to respond. Some species want to negotiate. Others want war. They can't agree on anything. The same Council that refused to help us, yes sir. And now they're learning what happens when you let predators go unpunished." Taehyun stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth gleamed blue and green, peaceful and beautiful. Humanity's home. The world they had sworn to protect no matter the cost. "Director, what's your professional assessment of the situation?" Yuna spoke carefully. "The Council will fall if we do nothing. The Vraks will conquer them within 5 years. After that, they'll turn their full attention to human space. We'll face them alone against an empire that controls half the galaxy. And if we intervene, we can stop them now while they're divided. But it means revealing what we've built. It means returning to the galaxy." Taehyun turned to face her. "I never wanted to stay isolated forever. We withdrew to protect ourselves and grow stronger. The question is, are we strong enough now?" Admiral Soman believes so. "Our simulations show we can defeat the Vraks fleet with acceptable losses." "Acceptable," Taehyun repeated the word bitterly. "We've had enough of acceptable losses. I want victory without question. I want the galaxy to understand that humanity can never be threatened again. Then, you're going to love what Dr. Jiwon has created." They traveled to the secret research facility buried beneath Luna's surface. Dr. Jiwon Lee had aged considerably in 25 years. but his mind was sharper than ever. He had been given unlimited resources and told to break every boundary of physics and engineering. He had succeeded beyond anyone's dreams. Chancellor. Admiral, welcome, Jiwan said, greeting them in his laboratory. You're here to see the prototype. I've read the reports, Taehyun said, but I need to see it myself. Jiwan led them to a massive chamber where a weapon system filled the entire space. It looked like a cannon, but the technology visible through transparent panels was far beyond anything conventional. This is the relativistic kill vehicle launcher, Jiwan explained. It accelerates a projectile to 97% the speed of light. At that velocity, a 1-kilogram projectile carries the kinetic energy of a massive nuclear bomb. It can destroy a planet. Soman stared at the weapon. Every ship in the fleet will carry one of these. The dreadnoughts will carry 3. The battleships will carry 2. Even our destroyers will have one. And the council ships have nothing that can compete. Their weapons technology hasn't advanced significantly in 200 years. They've been comfortable, complacent. We've been desperate and innovative. Taehyun nodded slowly. Then it's time to put it to a vote. Humanity decides together. The vote was broadcast across every human world. The question was simple. Should Earth return to the galaxy and intervene in the coming war? Should humanity help the council that abandoned them? The debate was fierce. Some argued for continued isolation. Why should humans risk their lives for species that let them die? Others argued that letting the Vraks win would doom humanity eventually. Better to fight now with allies than later alone. In the end, the vote was decisive. 78% of humanity voted to return. But they would not return as supplicants begging to rejoin. They would return as equals demanding respect. They would return with enough force that no one could ever dismiss them again. Fleet Admiral Soman stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the ESS Defiant. Around her, 999 other warships powered up their drives. The quantum fold generators hummed with barely contained energy. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Doyen said from his station. Soman took a deep breath. 25 years of preparation came down to this moment. Set course for the Cadrel system. Nexus Prime Station. The Council headquarters? Yes, we left from there 25 years ago. It's fitting that we announce our return there. Coordinates locked in. Soman looked around at her crew. Young men and women who had trained their entire lives for this moment. They knew the risks. They knew that returning to the galaxy meant entering a war. But they also knew they were ready. Take us home, Soman said. Back to the galaxy. But this time we go as conquerors of fear itself. The Grand Fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving human space for the first time in 25 years. Their destination awaited, unaware that humanity was coming. Admiral Hyun-woo Kim stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, watching the stars through the massive viewport. His uniform carried the marks of 30 years of service to Earth's fleet. Today, those years felt meaningless. The communication from Ambassador Mirai Park had arrived 10 minutes ago, and the words still burned in his mind. The Galactic Council had refused to help. Again. For 73 years, humanity had been part of the Council. They followed every rule, signed every treaty, and limited their military forces as demanded. Earth shared its technology, paid its dues, and sent representatives to every boring meeting on Nexus Prime Station. Humanity believed they were building something good with the other species in the galaxy. They were wrong. 3 months ago, the Virax Empire attacked human colonies in the Outer Rim. The insectoid warriors came without warning, their ships dark against the stars. Colony after colony went silent. When the distress calls finally reached Earth, the reports were horrible. Millions of humans were dead, cities burned, children were gone forever. Ambassador Mirai had rushed to the council chambers begging for help. The elder species sat in their floating seats and listened to her pleas. The Pelion counselor, a being that had lived for 400 years, barely looked at her. The Corthan representative checked his datapad during her speech. When she finished, they voted. No intervention. The council called it a peripheral conflict that did not threaten core worlds. They said getting involved would be too costly. They advised Earth to negotiate with the Virax. Negotiate with murderers. With monsters who killed human families while they slept. Mirai had tried again the next week. showing them footage of the attacks. Dead children in the streets, burning homes, survivors crying over bodies. The council members watched with cold eyes and voted again. The answer was still no. One counselor even suggested that humanity should have built stronger defenses if they wanted to hold distant colonies. Captain Doyen Choi entered the bridge, his face grim. "Sir, we're receiving the final casualty reports from the outer rim." Hyunwoo turned to face him. "How many?" 3,200,000 confirmed dead, another 500,000 missing, presumed dead. The admiral closed his eyes. Nearly 4 million human souls erased from existence while the Galactic Council did nothing, while they sat in their comfortable chambers and debated procedure. "The ambassador is preparing her final speech to the council," Doyen continued. "She wants us ready to evacuate all human personnel from Nexus Prime within 6 hours. 6 hours? Hyunwoo opened his eyes. "That's not much time. She says we won't need more than that. Her speech will be short." Hyunwoo watched the feed from the council chamber on his command screen. Mirai stood at the human podium, her face calm but her eyes fierce. She wore the formal robes of her office decorated with Earth's colors. Around her, representatives from 46 other species waited to hear what she would say. She began speaking, and her voice was ice. "Members of the Galactic Council, I address you today for the last time. 73 years ago, humanity joined this body believing in its principles. We believed in collective security. We believed that member species would protect each other. We believed that advanced civilizations would help those in need." The chamber was silent. Every species representative watched her now. 3 months ago, the Vrax Empire murdered nearly 4 million human beings. Our people died screaming for help that never came. We brought evidence to this council. We showed you the bodies, we begged for assistance, and you refused. You called our tragedy a peripheral matter. You suggested we should have been stronger. Her voice grew harder. You were right about one thing. We should have been stronger. Strong enough to never need your help. Strong enough to never trust species who hide behind laws and procedures while others die. Mirai picked up a data pad and held it high. "This document is Earth's formal withdrawal from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Humanity ends all treaties, all agreements, and all cooperation with Council space. We will evacuate our personnel within 6 hours. After that, Earth's borders close completely. Any Council ship entering human territory will be destroyed without warning." The Council chamber exploded with noise. Species representatives shouted questions and protests. The Pelian counselor stood up, his ancient face showing shock for the first time in decades. Mirai ignored them all. She placed the datapad on the podium and walked toward the exit. Her assistant, a young woman named Yuna Shin, fell into step beside her. Together they left the chamber while chaos erupted behind them. On the Indomitable, Hyunwoo smiled grimly. "All ships, begin evacuation procedures. I want every human off this station in 5 hours. Bring everything we can carry. Destroy anything we can't." The fleet moved into action. Human personnel across Nexus Prime received their orders. Diplomats packed files. Scientists wiped research data. Military officers secured weapons and equipment. Within 3 hours, the evacuation was complete. Hyunwoo stood on the bridge as the last human shuttle docked with the Indomitable. "Captain Doyen, are we ready?" "All human vessels are accounted for, sir. Everyone is aboard." "Then take us home." The human fleet turned away from Nexus Prime, 53 ships carrying every human who had lived and worked in Council space. As they prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Hyunwoo recorded one final message. He broadcasted on all Council frequencies. "To the members of the Galactic Council, you abandoned humanity when we needed you most. You revealed your true nature as cowards who care only for yourselves. We leave your space today, but remember this message well. When humanity returns, it will be on our own terms. We will not ask for your permission or your approval. We will not beg for your help. The next time you see Earth's ships, we will be strong enough that you will never dismiss us again." He ended the transmission and nodded to Doyun. "Jump." The Fleet vanished in flashes of light, leaving Council space behind. On Nexus Prime, species representatives watched the humans disappear. Some felt relief. Others felt concern. Most felt amusement. Humans were weak and emotional. They would come crawling back within a few years, desperate to rejoin. The elder species had no idea what mistake they had just made. They did not understand what happens when you hurt humanity and then mock their pain. They did not know what humans were capable of when they decided to never be victims again. In the depths of space, the human fleet raced toward Earth, and behind closed doors in secret facilities, Dr. Jiwan Lee began working on projects that would change the galaxy forever.